Hi everyone, Molly here. So the purpose of this video is a little bit different than a normal practice. As I'm interacting with my community and with my family and with everyone that I'm connected with somehow virtually during this time, what I'm really recognizing is that in some way we're all really completely overwhelmed, whether it's we're overwhelmed because we're spending a lot of time on social media or we're overwhelmed by the amount of news and how much it seems to change from moment to moment. And so there's really very little certainty, and that feels overwhelming, or whether we're just overwhelmed because even though most of us are staying home at this point, and in some ways, obviously, it's a huge gift for some of us, that transition of going and doing to I am inside the same four walls can be also pretty overwhelming. And so what I would like to do is present to you a few asana, a few positions, with the intention of helping you to create maybe a daily routine. Of course, it's beautiful to come to your mat and practice every day, and diversifying is really wonderful too. But it's also really a beautiful thing to have sort of a ritual that becomes a part of either your daily practice, maybe at the end of the practice, or what I would recommend is maybe incorporating something like this before you go to bed as a nighttime ritual when you turn off all your screens for the day. Maybe you're drawing yourself a warm bath, but taking just 10 or 15 minutes to do these postures. So why these particular postures? Well, it's really normal when we start to feel overwhelmed or when we're feeling a lot that has an intensity emotionally or spiritually. What we start to do with our body is kind of close down in front. And that is a beautiful protective mechanism that has its purpose, that has its place in time and space. But what ends up happening is that when that becomes our habitual pattern, we kind of begin to put a dam on our feelings. And even though when we feel overwhelmed, it's hard to trust that if we allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling, that everything will be okay, whether it's having a big cry and just letting it pass, or having a deep belly laugh and also letting that pass. Over the course of time, if we dam and protect and dam and protect, what starts to happen is we make a little volcano inside ourselves, and then we never know exactly what will be the stimulus that allows it to erupt. So what I'm inviting us to do as a Sangha, as a community, is to maybe create just a little ritual on a daily basis, especially during this time when we're feeling taxed maybe a little bit more emotionally, or confronting parts of ourselves that we didn't have to look at when we got to keep going. And with this practice together, we're going to lean in a little bit to keeping our heart, keeping our chest a little bit more open, so that as life is taking the course that it's taking right now, we give our physical body, we use our physical body as a symbol to our spirit, to our heart, that, you know what, it's okay and it's really normal to be feeling the things that I'm feeling. And the more that we let ourselves feel them in the moment they arise, the less baggage we're actually carrying with us into the next day. And so what I would recommend also is, most of you know that I don't really teach so much with music, but in a case like this, what I might suggest is that get creative. Make a little playlist for yourself that lasts 10 or 15 minutes, so that as you're relaxing in some of the postures that I'll recommend to hold a little longer, you can actually just close your eyes and let the music carry you. What I would recommend is not choosing songs that really conjure up a lot of deep emotion, or maybe do, because maybe you just need to have a good cry or let something out or get angry and beat up your pillow, and so maybe the music can facilitate that process for you as well. But the things that you'll need is, your mat is nice, although it's not really necessary. I've got a couple of cushions here and a blanket, or and some essential oils that are running away. If you've happen to have a bolster at home, that's really wonderful, but a blanket will do just fine. And I guess these two little oils wanted to be the star of the show, so I love, for a more restorative practice, incorporating my essential oils into the practice. The oils are processed through our limbic system, which is where we're processing emotions. It has a big effect on our breath, and so choosing for a practice like this some grounding essential oils can be really nice today. I have brought my sandalwood and frankincense because they tend to root down and hone with the first two chakras of the body, so kind of rooting us back into our spiritual home, our energetic home, our physical home there. So the first posture is actually going to be child's pose. But what we're going to do is put the big toes together, separate the knees really nice and wide, and then even if this posture is pretty comfortable for you, I'll recommend to take a blanket or even a cushion and just make sure that it's covering your heels and your ankles, and then you sit your hips back onto your heels and just begin to walk your body forward. If the walk forward also lands you in a place where the body doesn't rest so easily, just grab your cushions and let them be a landing place for your forehead, for one side of your face, for a cheek. And then here, especially if you've got your head supported on some cushions, you can really relax your elbows down. And once you find a comfortable way to be in this position in child's pose, just allowing yourself to be here for 4, maybe even 5 minutes, if that feels comfortable for you. And it's a nice opportunity to put a nice song on your playlist as the first song and just let that song flow through you as you stay in child's pose. So that's position number 1 of our little nighttime, or really anytime, ritual. And when you come out of child's pose, just really moving slowly here, maybe stretching one leg behind you and then the other leg behind you to get a little bit of motion, and then starting through some really gentle, soft cat and cow. And here, as you move with your breath, I'll just invite you to do the movements with your breath however it comes out intuitively. We often inhale and exhale in a particular way, but just put an inhale with one movement and an exhale with another movement. And after a few rounds of that, step your hands a paw print in front of where they are. And as you move toward your cow, bend your elbows slightly and just let your hips fall a little bit. And as you move toward cat, as you round your spine, sit all the way back in a little child's pose again. And then moving back and forth through this little wave here, forward and back, making the motion of cat and cow just a little bit bigger. Great. From here, the next time you move forward, or as you move forward, so again, the idea here is that you kind of learn the routine, of course, modify and create what feels good for you. You're going to lay down on your belly with your palms resting next to your chest. Extend the right arm out to the right, shoulder height, palm down, and push into the left hand to roll onto the right side of the body. I know my back is facing you, but this way you can see that right arm. Maybe just taking a look, the fingers are still gently pawing down. And of course, most of you know some of the variations here. You can bend the left leg, placing the foot on the floor right behind the right leg. And then again here, 10 to 20 deep breaths. And as we move into these postures in a more restorative way, it's nice to be mindful that we're not trying to really activate through the body. We're not really trying to push our body physically because we're already being pushed physically by our emotions and by some of the strong sensations that we're having. So here we want to really approach moving the body as more of a tender hug. And then coming on back to your belly to switch sides, extending the left arm out to the left, rolling onto the left side. The head stays really nice and heavy here. And then just doing your best, whatever variation you choose on one side, to choose the same variation on the other side so that we keep some symmetry, some balance in the body. And 10 to 20 breaths here, and then rolling back on to the belly and returning to the hands and the knees. And if you have tender knees, for any of these times we've got the knees on the ground, it's a nice opportunity to place the blanket under the knees just to have a little more support, a little more cush. And then Suchendrasana, one of our all-time favorites. So pushing into the right hand, lifting the left arm, and sliding it under the right. Sometimes we do this as a flow, but maybe here, just sliding down, lowering the shoulder, using the other hand to stabilize. And again, no need to push too much here. Imagine the pushing of your buttons that other things in life are doing, and this is the moment to just say, okay, everything's okay. I'm breathing, and physically I'm giving myself space to let things flow through so that I don't have to take responsibility in the long run for something that I don't want to digest today. And then as you move out, nice to just put any little intuitive movements with the spine, and then you lift the other arm and you thread it through, and you take some time on the other side. And here, as you manage this sort of twisted upside down position with the body, and seeing if you can relax your legs, the shins, the calves, the ankles, the feet. And then coming back up to the hands and the knees. And one last posture here on our hands and our knees, puppy dog pose. So keeping the hips over the knees, walk the hands forward as you lower the chest. Maybe lifting the chin to gaze between the hands, maybe just keeping the gaze straight down at your mat. And letting the hips and knees stay in one line together as much as possible, and really letting the center of the heart ground down toward the mat. Kind of reminding your heart, your chest, that as it opens to the reality of what you're feeling, you're still really grounded, you're still really rooted. You can feel what you need to feel, and you won't blow away. And then very gracefully moving out of that one. And again, any small intuitive movements with the spine. Okay? And the last two postures here. The first one, we're going to do a little gentle restorative heart opening posture. So grab your blanket or your bolster. And what you'll want to do is create, if you've got a blanket, a little bolster with the blanket. Be careful that your blanket isn't too big. Otherwise, it will feel unsteady, so you might need to experiment a little bit with that. And if you've got a really tall, long spine, you might want to have a cushion at the base of the blanket, and you're going to place the blanket long ways along the mat, or if you're just doing this on your floor, just have it long ways. And then what you're going to do is place your sacrum, the very tip of your tailbone, just off the edge of the blanket, bending the knees, keeping the feet flat to the floor, and rolling the spine all the way down. And if you're like me here and you have a blanket that's still too short for the spine, you can add another cushion under the head so that the neck stays neutral in line with the rest of the spine. The safest and steadiest position for the feet are to heel to the feet out to the sides of the mat and let the knees fall in. And the hands just resting on the hips or by the sides of the body is perfect. And here you can already feel this gentle opening of the front of the body as the back of the body is completely relaxed but supported. Often we think of opening our heart or opening our chest as something that we have to work to do or demand something of the back of the body to do. But here you just cradle yourself onto your props and let the breath move across the front of the body. A few other options with the arms are just to let the arms spread out to the sides in any comfortable way, but you really want to make sure that whatever position you choose, you can fully relax there. No muscling into any position. You can also cactus the arms, bending at the elbows. And for the legs, depending on how high your prop is, you can stay in that restorative rest. You can just relax the legs out in front of you. This happens to be my personal favorite, or you can even take Supta Baddha Konasana, so putting the soles of the feet together and letting the knees open. But again, if your roll lifts your hips away from the floor, this Supta Baddha Konasana can actually be quite a strong opening for the groin, holding a lot of our deep emotional memories. So it might be nicer just to choose something a little bit more restorative here. And this is a position that you can really hold and rest in and breathe deeply for 5 to even 10 minutes. Or again, if you're really creative and getting into creating your daily practice, you can just put on one of your favorite songs and breathe while it plays in this position. When you exit here, bending the knees, placing the feet flat to the floor, raise the arm of the side you want to roll to and roll very gently and gracefully, no crash landings, onto the side of the body. Pause on the side of the body for a few breaths and then just use your arms to bring you to a comfortable seat. And we'll move to the final position of our little, perhaps, evening routine. And this requires either a chair, a wall, or if you're practicing close to your couch, sometimes that's a really nice way to do it too. And it's just legs up the wall, another posture that's familiar to many of you, maybe to most of you. And so what you're going to do, if you've got a chair, you can bring a chair to the edge of your mat and just put the legs on the corners of the mat. Snuggle your hips as close as you can to the wall, to the couch, or to the chair. And then lay down kind of on the side of the body as you swing your legs up and over. A few things to be mindful of here. Actually, this bench is the only one in this room, so that's why I chose it. But you can see my heels are off the top of the bench, and so it's actually a little bit too tall for me. So you want your legs at a 90-degree angle so that the knees are stacking over the hips and the calves and the shins and the ankles and the heels can really be resting on whatever surface. And then once you're there, you're just going to lay yourself down. Hands can be over the low belly. They can again reach out to the sides to create a little gentle opening through the chest. And here again, a beautiful place to stay for 5 minutes. And if 5 minutes feels like a really long time, again, you can accompany yourself with some music, or sometimes I just set a little timer on my phone. But nicer maybe to mind your time with the guidance of some music. Or maybe don't mind your time at all and just let yourself be for as long as it feels comfortable, as you feel your body relaxing here. And then a similar exit to our last posture here. If you've got your legs up the wall, you might want to bend your knees so that your feet are flat against the wall. And then you're just going to roll again to one side or the other. And once you've spent a few minutes on your side or a few breaths, you don't really need to spend a few minutes on your side. What I'm going to invite you to do is just snuggle your back up against the chair, the couch, or the wall so that you can end this little ritual in a seated position, but with something against the back of your body, kind of imagining two loving hands here, just holding you up as you bring your spine straight again. And spending as much time there as you need, maybe 2 to 3 minutes, breathing and just breathing. So a little series of postures again. The idea, a little more of a tutorial, just to help us as a community, as humanity, to not close down too much in this really kind of immense time that we're all facing together. And no matter what the origin of your feelings might be, the idea here is to use the body as a metaphor, using these postures as a daily ritual to help keep ourselves open to really everything that we're feeling so that we don't start to implode on ourselves and begin to carry new baggage that we don't really need to be carrying. So if you have any questions, please feel free to comment below. If you need the guidance again, of course, you can use this video, fast forward, pause. But try to create a little routine every day, because every day life is changing. And so if you come back to this ritual before you go to bed, it's just a sweet little encouraging of your body, of your thoughts, of your mind, of your heart, that really you're okay. And you can stay open and stay courageous to everything that's coming your way. Namaste.